Welcome to Real Talk TV. My name is Darryl Buchanan. I'm your host. I have a very good show for you today. But before I get to that, I want to give a few shout outs. I'd like to give a shout out to Leaving Street Ministries out in Haverhill. My friends Wanda and Jesus. Appreciate what you're doing with the kids, man. I love it, man. I love you guys, man. And I love that you guys continue to support me. I also like to give a shout out to my other friend, Joseph Tuve Bennett. He has Yard Time Entertainment out there in Boston. He's doing big things with the kids, man. I salute you, my brother, and I keep doing it. I also like to give a shout out to the people that make this thing work, man. Without them, Real Talk TV wouldn't be on air. I'd like to thank Alex, Ryan, Matt, and Mike. Thank you guys for providing a platform, working with me every week, and keeping me committed as you guys stay committed. And just in short, brief, two more quick ones. I'd like to give a shout out to Matt Gannon. I'd like to give a shout out to Joe Simonelli. And I'd like to give a shout out to Mathematics, man. You guys came through. You made it pop, and I appreciate that. Today I have a good show, man. A lot of people were hitting me up, and one of my good friends, Greg Davenport. Thank you, brother. So Darryl, man, you're putting a lot of men on the show, and I get that. He should be here. So he sent me a list of women that I can interview, and this Keriann was on the top of the list. I reached out to her, man. Did a little research on her. Just found out a lot about her, and I'm very welcome to have her here today, man. She's really doing big things in her recovery and also in helping out and paving a new pathway that other women and even just other men could follow. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest, Keriann Caccavaro. She's the director of the Bridge Recovery Center out in Malden, Mass, and she's a person of long-term recovery. Hey, can you say hi to my viewers, please?
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Keriann Caccavaro. I'm really grateful, actually, though, to be here. I've been following you for a little while.
Thank you.
And then I started seeing, and watching the interviews that you were having, and I'm like, dude, this dude's doing a great job.
Thank you.
And then you reached out to me, so I'm super grateful to be here.
Thank you. I'm thank you to have you. All right, so let's get right into it. What was your environment when you were growing up? Like for my environment, my Lowell craziness. How was it for you?
To be honest, polar opposite. I was the craziness. So, really. So I grew up in, as a younger kid, I grew up in Winchester, which is very much upper class. But my family was working middle class. And so I didn't experience alcoholism. I didn't experience any drug use in my household. I just had two working parents that were trying to provide for me. And I was a big redheaded crazy kid with ADHD, and I'd that calm normal life just wasn't it. So any of the issues that happened were really internally because of me. From the beginning I was filled with insecurities. I didn't look like the other girls. And so one of the ways that I got attention was negative attention. So very early on I was kind of aggressive, and so I would instead of communicating things that were I was feeling, I would just act out. I would hit people. I would beat up boys. I didn't know how to act. And I don't think my parents had the tools to really know how to support me. And this was late 80s, early 90s at the time. So it wasn't, they just wanted me to sit down in my seat in class. And eventually I learned really quick, okay, if I want to get some sort of attention, I need to act out. So there wasn't any household traumas or anything. I just had two working parents trying to provide me with the best, and I just ran with it.
And so you was just out there.
Yeah.
So in school, what type of student were you? Were you smart? Were you smart class? Or?
No, I couldn't. I'm too hyper. I can't sit still. I can't sit for 8 hours. So I would be throwing things at kids. I don't even remember as a younger child having goals or aspirations or wanting to grow up to be something.
Wow.
I don't ever remember. I remember at one point I wanted to be a police officer, or then I wanted to be a vet or something. Anything that I saw or heard somebody else say that they wanted to be. Me too. And I didn't want to actually put in the work to do it. So in school I got in trouble a lot. I had learning disabilities, and so early on it was hard for me to ask for help. It was really hard for me, like if there was things with school that I didn't understand, to be like, I don't understand this. So I would act out and I'd punch the kid next to me that like did understand it. I didn't understand that those behaviors were gonna last a very long time for me. I now know that I'm actually super creative and I just learn differently. And like, I just need to be in an environment that allows me to kind of have my own creative freedom, to be able to kind of make and retain and produce. That side of my brain and the end result that, you know, normal kids were able to produce that. I just wasn't. So I was always in trouble.
Wow. Yeah,
Always.
Sound like me. So how did you get introduced to drugs? What was the introduction like?
So like as a kid, honestly, all I really knew at that time, like I would see like those commercials with the egg getting fried, or like this is your brain on drugs. That made no sense to me. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand any of it. And early on, I just remember like my mother being like, if you do drugs, you'll die. Like, it's a broad statement. Like, what's in between that? Like, what is it? And my brain was like, I want to know what's in between.
Why is she trying to keep me away from it, right?
Like, why does she not want me to do that? And, you know, during that time, like, that's when, like, MTV first started coming out, and my parents were working parents, so I always had babysitters at home, and, like, I would watch MTV. I'd watch, like, Snoop Dogg with the bouncing cars and, like, spraying the girls with alcohol, and that was, like, intriguing to me. I was like, oh, those girls look awesome. I didn't realize, like, I was, like, trying to, like, act, not that I had anybody spray alcohol on me, but I didn't realize I was, like, trying to emulate that lifestyle. And so early on, I remember in that town, we ended up getting a few kids, like 6 kids got asked in the whole entire town to be a part of like the DARE program. And I was one of the kids. And my mother was like, what? Like she was furious. She was offended. She didn't understand why I was selected in an entire town. My mom's like, wait, what are we talking about? And I just wanted to go because my friends were going. I'm like, it's like a field trip with all my friends. And I remember going into Billerica House of Corrections. I was in like 4th grade. That's crazy to me thinking about that. Imagine sending 4th graders now into Billerica House of Corrections. Like that's really, intentions were great, but I didn't understand like that this was a consequence of somebody's actions. Like I remember going downstairs in Billerica and they were teaching us how to like throw stuff at guards and like I didn't understand and it was a joke.
Was there when you came with was there.
And like at the end of it, it was like then we went to Canopy Lake. It was like I didn't understand like you know you use drugs or that lifestyle is going to lead you to jail. All I saw was like I get to be out of school and I get to go to jail and then I get to go to Canopy Lake. So my like real first introduction was like just seeing it around. The neighborhood I grew up in, there wasn't any of that. No. My household, there was people that were trying to, you know, pretend like they were living that lifestyle, but they weren't really living that lifestyle. But, you know, in my early teens, I started smoking weed and I started drinking. And right away with the drinking, it just like, it got real crazy for me. And I didn't realize like every time I drank, I was going to be making these decisions that like the next day I'd end up regretting and I'd be embarrassed about and I'd be filled with shame that like that next weekend I wanted to do it all over again because I didn't want to think about all the embarrassing things that I did the weekend before. So alcohol was really what introduced me to everything else.
Wow. So did alcohol ever came like was that your major problem? Is that your drug of choice now? Or excuse me, was that your drug of choice when?
I would say, well, yeah, I would never just like drink half of a beer. That concept, I don't understand that concept. Like I didn't drink just to sip. I drank to get drunk. Okay. I drank not to feel. I drank because I thought drinking allowed me to feel better, feel more confident. But the choices I made when I drank left me with nothing else but drinking to kind of get through them. So, but it started off with alcohol and it ended with being an IV heroin user.
Okay, yeah. So when did you know that had became a problem? That drugs had became a problem. When did you know? Like this is the only disease that we self-diagnose, right? So when did you say, you know what, I got a problem, or maybe I am an addict?
So I wasn't introduced to like I didn't really like. I really didn't like smoking weed that much. I really just only liked drinking. And then at like 19 or 20, at this point, you know, in between my lifestyle, I started dating like really abusive men. I was like in domestically abusive relationships, which I was like a full participant. I didn't know how to like have like effective. Yeah, we both were fighting. This wasn't one way. And I was trying to like escape from my home environment at that time. My family had just split up, and so that boyfriend at the time was on house arrest. So to me, I'm like, well, this is the perfect option. You know, get me out of my family's house. So we're stuck at his house. And that lifestyle then led me to having a procedure that introduced me to Percocets. And I thought Percocets were like the best thing coming. Wow. I didn't realize like that Percocets could then lead me to heroin.
Wow.
So it wasn't until I was like 20 years old and now dating a drug dealer and doing OC80s at that time and like experiencing my first sickness was I like, what is going on here? Like I'm not a drug addict. They prescribe these to people. Not me, but they're prescribing it to somebody.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to actually ask for help after that.
Yeah. Did you have to go through, the first time you tried to get clean, did you get clean or was it, well, talk about it. Tell me about it.
I think, there's multiple rounds of me trying to get clean.
Me too, me too, yeah.
And usually it was because of the end result or like a consequence of something. So it was never because I wanted to get clean. In the beginning process, it was because, I had stolen from my mother, and because like that's what I do. It's like that's what I do. Like unfortunately I harm the ones that I love the most, and I justify it. I justify it. They'll never find out. They'll forgive me. Like I'll figure it out somehow. And so in the beginning it was like, get on Suboxone at that time. Now this is like 2006, 2007. Which it wasn't as accessible as it is today. But I didn't get on it because I wanted to get clean. I got on it so I could make money. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it was.
Yeah.
And then, then I started going to detoxes, and then I would go to meetings, and I'm like, these people are so weird. Like, why are we hanging out in here? And they're all like chanting the same chants. Like, this is so weird to me. I'm like, I'm not there yet. But then eventually, like my whole entire 20s, I was in detox, homeless, programs, or Framingham. And so, at the end, I had nothing but the option to go and get my life.
And get your life together, yeah, cool. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, what was the end like, mentally, spiritually, and physically? Like for me, I was done, bro. I just didn't know how to get, I wanted to die. But I was scared to die because I wanted to get high first. That, it was really crazy. I was homicidal and suicidal at the end. How about you?
Same. I was the exact same. At the end, like I was 29 years old, chronically homeless, broken relationships within my family, just trying to survive. I remember just waking up, and every time I would wake up, I would just be like, oh my God, why am I still here? Like, I couldn't understand why I was still here. And I didn't have a purpose to actually want to get I didn't have children. I had strained relationships with my families. So I didn't have that like internal purpose that I thought I was deserving. My life was deserving of another chance. And so the end for me, I was homeless in Lowell. Wanting to die. Like I was in Lowell wanting to die. And, I ended up getting picked up because I had warrants. I was on warrant status, and my probation officer wanted to give me my time. I ended up taking grand larceny charges from my ex-boyfriend, who then ended up getting deported. So I took these grand larceny charges because we stole my mother's jewelry. Again, the result of my, I won't steal from a stranger, but I'll steal from the person that it means the most to me.
Yeah.
And thank God she pressed those charges. Thank God she pressed those charges because, and she wasn't looking for me to get my time. She was looking for me to get help.
Get help.
And we weren't talking about this back then. Like, you went to the police station and asked for help. They wanted to know who the dealer was. They weren't offering you. They had Al-Anon. That was it. And thank God she didn't have Al-Anon because
Joke would have been over, right?
now she knows where the supports are, but at that time I would have been so mad if she had supports, because then she would have been able to set boundaries with me. I didn't want her to set boundaries with me. So in the end, for me, I got picked up on warrant status, and my probation officer was requesting my time. And so I remember sitting there thinking to myself, okay, yeah, give me my time. 5 years, I'll do 5 years with my eyes closed. No, not thinking like, okay, I'll be 35. Half of my life is gone. And then I was still, even at that moment, still trying to do it Kerry's way. I wanted to do it Kerry's way. Yeah. So
that's how we are. Okay, that's enough of that. And I want to talk about some of the good stuff you're doing now. I just wanted to qualify a little bit, let people know. Can you tell me a little bit about Live Recovery Homes? Why? How did that start? And what do you do there? How is it different? Or the same as other things that are out there?
Definitely. So Live Recovery Homes, we opened in September of 2022. So it's only been open for about 6 months. It's my husband and I, and we have 2 partners. And so the story behind the name Live is, when I was active, one of my friends was active at the time, and we ended up having a fallout due to our active addiction and my choices within that active addiction. I ended up getting clean, and I thought I had time. Like, I thought I had time to make those amends. I thought I had time to tell this person, like, how important they were to me. Wow. And it's been, like, a major life lesson for me to know, like, because of the end result of this, like, I always make sure I tell people how much they mean to me. I thought I had time with her, and I got a call in 2015 that she had passed away of an overdose. And I had taken that time for granted, because I really think she changed my perception of, like, the world, recovery, my life, who I am as a woman. And after I left her wake that night, I looked at my husband. I said, I'm gonna open up a house in her name one day. And luckily, we were able to open the house. It's a 12-bed female sober living house. And during COVID, one of the things that I started to notice is that, like, luckily in our state, we have a lot of treatment options. So we have, your typical state treatment options, and then you have like the private options. And so one of the things that I noticed within the center is that a lot of the girls that were younger, they hadn't really traveled the roads that we had to travel. They're in these facilities that, kind of keep them sheltered, and we're placing them into these sober living environments with women that, they've been living there for 5 years already, and we're expecting these women to know how to get up, know how to brush their teeth, know how to make their bed, know exactly the etiquette of a meeting, and expecting them to succeed. So with our house, it's a step before you go into, like, real sober living. We have girls that have been in our house. We've only been open 6 months. We have women that,
do they even come from prison, or did?
Yep.
Oh, they do?
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's more of like a really structured house. They have to be in some sort of level of care. Have to be. So we have some women that are at Lowell House. We have some women that are in, different facilities around the state. But it's definitely not, pay your rent and provide us, and provide us with your urines. That's not the type of house that we are. Good. We are a structured, sober living. And so far.
Why is that? Why do you think that is important?
Probably from my own personal experience. I was 30 years old, and I didn't know how to food shop. I didn't know. I didn't know how to make my bed on a daily basis. I didn't know how to not forge a signature on my meeting slips. I didn't know how to slow down and just kind of have an environment where I could be like, I don't know how to do this. And so with this house, one of our main statements is, like, as long as you're honest, we'll always be able to work with you, no matter what. If we all have an honest environment where even if you make a mistake, you know that there's no severe consequences, how much easier is it for you to change those mistakes by having a supportive person next to you than, being scolded or kicked out? So, so far it's been a blessing. We've watched beautiful women so far stay at the house, and continue on their path of sobriety. Yeah,
and plus you employ people there?
Not at Live.
Not at Live. So let me, go ahead, finish off Live.
Not at Live. No, okay. It's myself and the other business owner with the house manager.
Got you.
But, you know, if we have to eventually employ people there, we will.
Good. That's good. Now, talk about, now, another thing you do is you're the director of the Bridge Recovery Center in Malden. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's a peer-to-peer recovery center, and we opened in 2020. I was hired, the host agency is the Gavin Foundation, so I was hired by the Gavin Foundation, and it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. So, you know, I had to open up a peer recovery center that was based off a connection at the most disconnected time that we have all ever experienced. And, you know, in that community that Arlington is near Malden, we all kind of, in the community itself, all work with each other. And so I was able to be a part of the planning process of that for the last, you know, few years. And so as of right now, we've been open for 3 years, and it's really a beautiful place. We allow people to come in.
It's not a drop-in center, right?
No,
It's just like the center I just showed you over there.
Yep.
I like that concept. You know what I mean?
I do too.
It's like iron sharpens iron, so I like that.
Yeah.
The people talk good about you, and I wanted to just tell you what a couple of people said. Take the time to do that. I think the sentiments are good to have because, you know, like at the end, my name was Get Out. Nobody, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to see me, and I probably was everything under the sun. But I think this person, when I heard what she said, I reached out to her and we had communicated, and she wanted me to tell you this. You know what I mean? She wants to the people to know this is how she sees you. And she says, Keriann worked at the treatment facility I went to. I was in shock of just overdosing in a public store with my kid and videotaped, and it went viral nationwide. I wanted to die. I lost my daughter, had no clue about treatment. She took me to my first visit with my daughter, all my court dates. She fought off reporters in my face. She sent me a picture of that. Like, you fighting, literally fighting out reporters, right? She was hard on me, but in a good way. She got me a bracelet that says never give up. I tattooed that on my arm. That woman is so overprotective of me, it's insane. She has been by my side since September 18th, 2016. Complete stranger to becoming my true hero. She helped me with my self-esteem and believing in myself and loving myself. Anyone could call her at 3 o'clock in the morning for her help, and for her and her husband to help, and they would get up and go. Ninja style. She is an inspiration to all women, including men too. That's the little thing she said to me still sticks in my head daily. I am where I am today because of people like Keriann. That woman would take a bullet for me. I went through the most horrific thing anyone could go through and lost everything in almost my life. But God replaced all that pain and suffering with people like Keriann. In my life, and that's what saved me. She is truly an incredible woman, and I love her to the moon and back. What do you think about stuff like that?
Well, I almost started crying.
What do you think about it? Let me tell you what I think about it.
Okay.
I think when we hear things like that, and when we go above and beyond, I think these are the gifts, right? And I think what it does, it helps exchange the neural pathways of all our self-talk and what people thought about us and all. And for someone to come back and actually said that you were key and instrumental in saving their life, I think that's a big deal. And I think those are the things that we need to hug on to, and because it helps us get to the next person, because there's always going to be another person, right? But for her to say that and be open with me, I know Randy for a few years. I've known her brother. I know her brother too. For her to say that, I think that's a big deal. And I remember telling people when I do share this type of thing with people, they're like, they get back because they don't think they deserve that. But do you think you deserve that?
No. I watched Mandy go through pains that, like, I don't think I would ever experience. So I never tried to support her in a way to change her life. I tried to support her as a woman and how I would want somebody to support me, and remind her that she is worthy, and regardless of the mistakes that she made, her life is valuable, and that no matter what reporters or what the world says, that does not define you. The end goal with Mandy was never just to, or anybody that we work with, is not to have like this statement that like I made a difference or anything. It's really just to make somebody not feel alone. I never forget feeling alone. So I'm grateful that she says that, but the same goes for her because she has taught me things that she's taught me resilience and just holding on no matter what, that like what the world or the universe has in store for us. You still have to hold on.
Yeah, I think that, and she's doing good. I was working in Lowell, and so I was down in the area where she was working, and she seems to be doing good. And she just had some traumatic events happen last year, but it's still, she's doing good. But that's good. All right, tell me a little bit about, let's talk just a little bit about your day. What do you do day to day? The one thing that you do every day for your recovery.
I think, for me, my process, I've been a part of the community more so than, one fellowship or one pathway. For me, my recovery is based off of like helping others. And so one thing that I always do, no matter what, is like I make sure no matter what every single day that I put myself aside at times and I think of the next person. I thank my higher power. Regardless of the difficulties that I'm faced with, I always look around and I'm like, oh my God, I am
blessed.
So grateful for this. I am so because I remember a time where it wasn't even I was praying for the things that I have today because I couldn't even visualize the things that I have today. So I wouldn't even have thought to pray for it. But when I walk into my home today, I say thank you. When I go to my job today, I'm grateful that I'm employable. Like I can be an employee. Yeah. And so the one thing that I do every single day, I never forget where I come from. I never forget where I come from, and I never turn my back away on like my community. So.
And it speaks volume. People say that, they do. I reached out to a few people. People reached out to me because I wanted to learn to know a little bit about, and they talk very well about you. You know what I mean? And when I mean that, like sincerely, they really do. What motivates you though? Like, what motivates you? Every day you get up, some days we don't have good days, Some days we probably don't want to get up. What motivates you?
My disease. My disease.
How's that?
Because I know where I was left. I know the spiritual, mental, and physical place at the end of my road. I know what that looks like. And so every single day I get up and I try my hardest so that my devil doesn't have the upper hand, no matter what. I refuse to allow my devil to be able to kind of be like, got you. So for me, what motivates me is trying harder. If my drug was at the end of every single day, I would have tried as hard as I could. I would have went as hard as I could to get that high. So I apply that same exact mentality to my daily routine. I have to try as hard as I can to get my end goal. And my end goal is just coming home, going to bed with another 24 hours.
Another 24, right?
That's it.
Got you. Let me ask you another question. I want to talk a little bit about the stigma. The stigma is real. How can we combat that? How do we make people be more compassionate and have more empathy towards, people like us, that, and, how do we get them to see that these ain't really choices? We might have made the first choice, but this is really actually a disease. How do we do that? And
I think by awareness. I know, from the time that I started using to now, the stigma has definitely changed a little bit. But I think one of the ways that we would be able to allow the stigma to completely change is when all families start speaking up about what's going on within their family. I think that's what will really change the stigma. I think, when Cindy Lou, who next door, her family is struggling with it, and then the next neighbor, and then the next person, and we start normalizing that this isn't a moral issue. This isn't due to a failing from our parents or a failing because of generational things. This is internal right now. And after that first one, I'm a believer that after my first one, it's a disease for me. I have no choice. I have no choice. And but I also want to say that with the stigma, we also have a stigma within our own community.
Yeah.
Within our own community.
Talk about it, yeah.
So it's really hard for us to expect communities that don't know and aren't from where we're from to kind of lift their own misconceptions of us, when within our own communities, we sit there and we push this person away because of this pathway, or we judge on this, or that they're not that bad. Within I see that more so now than I do, the world as a whole. Like, I feel like, luckily with COVID and all the changes, there was so much knowledge at the tip of everybody's fingers, and they could research. And I think that, like, the numbers completely changed with people being stuck at home and alcoholism raising up, that numbers raising. But within our own community, if you're not working this fellowship, I don't really, you can't be a part of this. If you're not doing it this way, then you're going to fail. There's this mentality that we, as people in recovery, need to kind of drop. We need to drop the conditioning that, like, we have.
We think we're hurting people, and maybe possibly the newcomer. So you're a believer in all paths. I know I am now. I never was. I never was a believer in MATs. I never was a believer in all pathways. But I've got some information, and I think you can choose whatever you want to choose. I think and it works for me today. I'm not, like you said, I'm not lined up. If I don't go to this meeting 7 times a day or 7 times a week and stay and do XYZ, then, you know what I mean? No, but I might like to do this. I might like a motivational video. I might like a Zoom. I might just go eat a pizza and whatever it is. Yep. You know what I mean? So you believe that for people. You think that helps a lot of people? Yeah.
Absolutely. If I could take my friends that have passed away, if I could take them back and have them on MAT, I would take that any day.
Did you ever believe MAT? Was you against MATs ever?
I never even got the opportunity, really. To be honest with you, at the time, for me, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait that time period to get on the clinic. I couldn't, because I would end up relapsing. And anytime I would be on, Suboxone, I would end up taking advantage of it. So for me, I didn't really have that opportunity to do that. But I know now that if it's keeping somebody alive, and they're able to be a father to their children, they'll be able to show up to their job, maybe eventually they'll get to a place where they feel they want to. It's not my place
It's not your place.
It's not my place to judge how somebody stays alive today. It's not my place.
And it's about life and death. It ain't about that other stuff. I agree with you 100% because, I agree with you, MATs. Somebody's available. They, like you said, they get to work. They're not irritable and just content around you. You know what I mean? So they're numb. So I get it. So that made me like, okay, maybe that does work. Let me ask you another question. So we talked about drug court when we were at the peer recovery center, and how people because I had that viewpoint. That's how, like, man, forget drug court, give me my time. I don't know if it was much ego, like you didn't want to look like a sucker in front of everybody in the cell, in the holding cell downstairs in court. But drug court, I remember I tried to go there, they didn't take me. But talk a little bit about drug court, for people that might have to go that path or might, can we change the narrative of how that is because it works for you?
Absolutely. I started getting arrested at 16 years old. So, like, my behaviors in the court system was, like, in my life long before drugs were in my life. And by the time I was 29 years old, with the charges that I was looking at, at first I had the same mentality. I was like, give me my time. Just give me my time. I'll go to Framingham for 5 years. I'll be out at 35 and I'll figure out my life. I was in Framingham for 2 weeks. I am the sucker. I was in Framingham for 2 weeks and I was like, oh no, I had no canteen. Nobody was coming up to visit me. There was no money on my books. Like, I was like, oh, I can't do this for 5 years. And I'm like, there must be another option here. And, luckily at the Cambridge District Court, they ended up offering me drug court. And luckily, like, that the drug court probation officer at that time, he had watched my progression. He had seen me be in and out of these abusive relationships. I would come in, I'm going to save my boyfriends and I'll put money on your books, don't worry. And I remember being in the holding cell out back of Cambridge and him being like, when are you going to give it up? And I'm like, when are you going to give it up? Like, but really, they gave me an opportunity. And like I said before, I didn't take drug court with the intention of getting my life together. I took drug court with the intention of getting out of Framingham. I luckily, though, was placed in a halfway house in Lynn that had like 36 women, and it was a behavioral modification house.
Wow.
And
36 women?
Yeah, I want to say
I'm
it
saying
was
that's a lot.
36. Yeah, I want to say, oh, God, it was a
Wow.
lot. But, like, they taught me how to get up on time. They taught me how to go to meetings every day. They taught me how to make doctor's appointments. They held me accountable.
Wow.
And then drug court also held me accountable. I had a whole entire team in my drug court, and thank God for them, that they made sure that I wasn't able to kind of, cut corners. There was I was on drug court and OCC and living in a program. So I was taking multiple urines. I wasn't able to do much. And, but at the end of that, like, I had no references for my first job. My drug court wrote me my first reference.
Yeah?
For my first apartment, my probation officer wrote me that first reference. Like, I had none of that. And and then when I got married, my drug court came to my wedding. Like, they were the most influential people in my entire life. Now, before drug court, I was cursing them, and they were the problem, not me. So when you're ready to receive the help, it is there. And I think at times drug court, it's now called recovery court. They get this negative reputation because it's court assisted treatment. For me, I needed to be detained.
Yeah.
My disease needed to be arrested. I needed to be locked up. I remember going to Framingham, pulling up, having the gates open, coming out of the van, and being like, okay, the gig is up. I felt like, okay, I can breathe.
Yeah.
Because I knew I couldn't run. I could, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I'm forever indebted for drug court, and I always inform people about it. They'll be able to guide you and support you in ways that, like, you on your own may not be able to do, and they hold you accountable to a different standard than you would be able to do on your own.
Do you think that, because most bad talk comes from people like who was trying to use drug court and then ended up playing themselves again?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there has to be. If those things, like you said, are in place, I'm sure you're not the only one that it could help.
Right.
If we change the narrative of it. Because I never tried no drug court. I heard about it, and I just took on what other people said.
Right.
And it kept me from,
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
From dealing with them. So shout out to drug court. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying?
Yes,
No, I'm
definitely.
just saying.
Definitely.
Because it's the truth. Like, we just hear what people say, and we go on with it. And it could be our path out. So yeah, most definitely shout out. Let's listen to this. Keriann is a recovery warrior. She's resilient, persistent, and fighting to help someone in their journey to get sober. She's an inspiration, and I'm grateful to call her not just my friend, but family. Who do you think said that? You got so many people.
No, probably Matt.
Matt Gannon, he said that about you. He talked about you. And the funny thing about it, when I asked Matt when he was on the show, and somebody sent some stuff in him, he was like, woo. He felt really like changed, uncomfortable. But he did say that, and as Matt's a guy I respect. Like I said, he came on the show, still keeps in touch. His sincerity was there for me, and even after the show. So he said that about you. How about this one? I had the privilege of working alongside Keriann in the community for some time now. One thing I realized about Kerry, he changed the name, is that she is fueled by passion. Passion helps those out there suffering. Kerry has made a huge impact on the recovery community and is a strong advocate for women in recovery. Who do you think said that?
I'm not sure.
Joey Simonelli.
Oh.
He said that about you. So again, I just wanted to let you know what people are saying. Now, who do you look up to? Whose people's recovery do you watch? Or not even a recovery, whose new way of life do you watch? Their morals or values, how they treat their, who's that?
I would definitely say Matt's one of those people. Probably because I've seen him, at his worst, and he's so humble about he's just so humble about the things that he does and how he helps people, and he's always willing to just lead the next person. So he's definitely one of those. He's like at the top of my list, but I'm
sure there's a gang. I didn't want to put you on the spot.
But like women,
leave somebody out.
You know what I mean? Like for us women, like I look for women that like I know you live the way I lived. I know that like one thing that Matt taught me, or Matt always like tried to correct my language. I used to call myself crazy, and he'd say, "You're not crazy. You're passionate. You're passionate, and that's exactly it. But I need to see that passion in other women. When I see women with the same like fire inside of them, I try to go close to them. I want to be near that light, because I know for myself, well, I need a tribe. I need a tribe of women, and the men can help me, and men give me different perspectives. But it's the women in the community that really help me get through like the emotional side of things, or the trauma side of things, or, in their life experience. And, we're lucky in this state, especially, that we have some strong women in this state that like are leading the march. So I just try to emulate what they're doing.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think women in recovery, his voice is not heard as loud as men's? And why would you think that is? Because, the reason why I say that is, one, I'm going to keep it right, because what Greg said, and then you kind of like got on me about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I respected it, and I thought about it. I was like, wow, you're right. And I was, like I told you, it wasn't intentional.
Right.
But I needed somebody
Right.
to tell me, so
Yeah.
it's like, you're right. Bro.
Yeah.
Right? Because not only I'm missing out.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but why do you think that is, though?
Well, I think statistically, there's more men that are actively using and then in recovery than women. So even if you look at the bed availability in this state, there's way more male beds than there are for women. And then society in itself doesn't really allow women to they're not as like accepting for women to come in and receive treatment. So there's already barriers for women to come in and receive treatment as there is. But then I think as in my experience as a woman, a lot of the times there is this, it's hard for us, what we had to do to survive on the streets, what our experiences are. It's really hard for us to be able to stand on a platform and share
The truth.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I was able to do very early in my process was, share my experience and share it nationally, and share that it's okay as a woman to share the traumas that we experience as a homeless IV heroin user, and that we can overcome that, and that little voice inside of my head that tells me I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough to be a wife. Once in a while. The voice kind of changed a little, though. You know what I mean? It's like,
from a different angle.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Now it's more of like an ego voice. It's more of like, it's not that initial voice that like fueled my addiction. It's more like this voice that tells me like, oh, you're not good enough, in a way that there's others that are better than you. So I constantly am sitting there like, no, like I have this like internal dialogue going on. But it's, what I try to do myself is I just try to stay true to me. And I know for me, if I stay true to me, I know there's other women and men that are out there that, yep, me too. I've experienced that too.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's really raw, and sometimes it's uncut, but it's true.
I appreciate that. That's the value, and the more real and the close to I think that we get, that opens it. I think that helps people more, right? If you can be real. I think I told you when in the meeting I heard a guy who was talking about that, and he was talking about being molested, and for years I'm talking about. I'm 60 today. Well, now. For years, 45 plus years, I held on to that. No one knew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At least I thought.
Yeah.
But I wasn't never able to say that until that man said that. And I was like,
right.
Wow.
Right.
It freed me, and I've been able to be free so I can speak about it.
Yeah.
So it's that truth. It's like where as sick as our secrets, right? So if you're really trying to help people, then you have to be, like you said, really raw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's nothing where you can't put a fake solution on a real problem, right? So you have to keep it a buck. All right, let me ask you another question. Once an addict, always an addict? What do you think?
I would say, we'll always have the disease, but I will not always be in active addiction.
Great answer. Yes. On your thing, you said, just your statement, and I want to kind of explain what this statement meant. I said, stay kind and inspire the blank out of each other. What does that mean to you? And what does it mean?
Like, what are we here for if we're not trying to help the next person? Like, we have to inspire people. You can find inspiration from the sun. You can find inspiration from grass. You know what I mean? But if it's a human connection, we're obligated to try to fill the next person that is suffering and in pain with hope. So to me, it's like, why not inspire somebody? Why not? If you came from, and I didn't go to the depths of hell that some others have experienced, but my hell was my hell. And if I made it out of there, why not try to share that? And be kind in the process of it. Sometimes that one kind word, smiling at somebody, asking somebody how their day is. Okay, somebody's homeless and they need, they're asking for $1. Do you really need that $1? Really though? Yeah. Really though? It's none of my business what you're going to do with that. Yeah. And I've been there. Yeah. I know exactly what you're going to do with that.
Once I give you, it's yours.
Right. It's difficult out there. So it's like sometimes just making somebody feel like a human, regardless of putting all these labels on them, they're still human regardless of what their current situation is. Why not make them feel like they're worthy for a minute, for 1 minute? So that's really what that comes from.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. You're right. People are human. Hey, how about this? This will be the last one. I'm not going to trip you out on a bunch of them. But it says, I met my wife in 2014 in drug court. We soon made a deal to become a team to fight addiction and help others. My wife's dedication is like no other I've ever seen. She's fully supportive of all addicts in addiction and strives to do whatever it takes to help them figure out their life in all aspects. She is so educated that it blows my mind, and I'm so proud and privileged to be her husband. Keriann Caccavaro is my face for fighting for the people in active addiction to show them the light, especially for the female community. Thank you, when we all love you. I had a conversation with him a little bit and he admires you. You know what I mean? That's kind of dope. You know, and the reason why I say that, I remember when me and Katie, my other half, started and people were bashing us. You know, you need to get away from her. You need to get away from him. It ain't never gonna work. You guys are never gonna. And there's been valleys and hills, but you know, two people from the same place. We came from the exact same place, and 7 years later, we're still together. You know what I mean? Like I said, we had our bumps and everything, but you know. So how did it happen for you? How did you? And what was your mindset? I'm sure people said that probably, and you guys are kicking strong today. What do you? Shout out to Tom. Thank you. Can't wait to have you here, bro. Read your thing.
He's the best. He is. He's like.
So how did you meet? What did you think? Because he said you decided, and I get it. I just went through that.
So we both grew up in Arlington, and like real backstory, when I was much younger, I was like a teenager, and he was, I think, in his early 20s. I think I was like 16 or 17. He kept on asking me out on dates. I thought he was weird. I was like, this guy, so he was really hyper. I didn't know he was like on coke at the time. He was really weird, and I'm like, he's really crazy. And you know, our paths would cross, but it wasn't anything that I thought was going to stand out. And then when I took drug court, he ended up coming in. And I was 3 months in drug court at that time, and he came in. And my sister used to take me. I have a sister that's like 10 years younger than me. She used to be the one that would take me to drug court every week. And
shout out to your sister.
Oh, she's the best. She's the best. And when he came in shackled, and I remember I looked at my sister, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna marry him. My sister's like, oh, you're finally doing good. And but I knew it. I knew right then and there, like there was something inside of me that was like, I'm gonna marry him. And then a few months,
shackles.
Yeah, well, of course, I wasn't gonna get the scholar with the backpack on, you know what I mean? So, but you know, during that time, we really did. We tried to empower each other, and you know, he taught me. He's the most forgiving. He's like polar opposite of me a lot of the times. I have like a hard exterior, but really inside, I'm super sensitive. I'm scared a lot of the times. So like my exterior is all a front, you know, and except when you get me mad. When I get mad, I get mad. But
so different person, yeah.
Yeah, but like he's like the most forgiving person. Like he's like, don't worry about it. That's their issue. I'll hold on to things. Yeah. He always wants to help people regardless of what their motive is. I'm always trying to analyze what somebody's motive is. And he's like, that's none of my business. Like he literally teaches me how to be a better person. Wow. And I needed that. Like I think at that point in my life, I was like a rock. Like, and one more situation that would have happened, I would have been like that vault. It would have been shut. Nobody would have been able to come in. And darkness, like complete darkness. And when he came into my life, he kind of came in and he took me as I was. He knew my past. He knew what I had to do. And And he reminded me like daily that like I'm not my past.
Wow.
And you know, we ended up getting married at I think we were only like 16 months clean.
Wow.
And everybody was like, you know, you're gonna fail. This is never gonna work. And I think a part of us, we didn't listen to that noise.
Good.
I didn't listen to
Good.
that. You know what
Good.
I mean? Like, I've made many mistakes in my life. If this was going to be another one, add it to the list.
Yeah.
I was okay with it, but I was willing to take that chance.
Yeah, and it was working, and you had, I'm sure you had your valleys
Yeah.
and hills, but it's worked out.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you guys, that's great, man. I mean, I like that story because that's,
Yes.
I have that story.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's kind of dope. Shout out to you, Tom, again. Like I said, make sure you come on the show. I'm
Yes.
waiting for you. We'll hook it up. And thank you for sending that stuff in. Thank everybody who sent in the sentiments. Let me ask you a few more questions, and we talk. I want to talk a little bit about. I know you have to be grateful, like your gratitude, right? They say that's the foundation. Tell me a little bit about your gratitude. You know, yeah, just tell me a little bit about your gratitude.
I like. There's not a moment that goes by for me personally that I can't see. Like, it's not a word for me. Like, it's action for me. Like, I live in gratitude. Like, okay, there's certain things that happen that are difficult. I never forget like what it used to be like. So even the difficulties that I'm faced with, I'm grateful for those difficulties. I remember being homeless and watching people. I was in Boston. I remember watching people. They got their briefcases and their outfits. They're going to their job and sitting there. I wish I had a job to go to at that time. I wish I had this important place to, you know, hurry off to. I didn't have anywhere to go. And so for me, my gratitude, even in the most difficult moments, it's almost like I kind of train my brain that like I know there's a reason at the end of it why I'm going through these difficulties. I know there's a lesson that will build me into a better person. I'll become a better woman at the end of it. So my gratitude, even when I'm furious, I sit there and I literally thank my higher power and thank you for my difficulties.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to have a hard time. I'm grateful for, you know, uncomfortable emotions. I'm grateful to be able to feel that today.
Wow.
And sit through that.
Yeah, because we didn't feel them before.
Right.
Let me ask you, in active addiction, we hurt a lot of people. My list is out the door. You know, is there anybody here, anybody that you would like to talk, not say apologize to, but speak on? You know what I mean? For me, my mom's just gone. I can't really speak, you know, on her. I think I try to make amends or try to help people, like in my own head, in her name.
Yep.
You know, you was talking about your mom, and it brought me. I remember crawling on the floor like a snake while she was sleeping. You know, and I would go into her pocketbook and crawl out, and then I'd come back high and help her look for the money that I just took. Stuff, I did some really terrible stuff to my mom. And then she passed while I was in active addiction, so I never got a chance to apologize or just to say, you know, I love you. How about you? I seen a picture with you. I don't know. Your Nana's still alive?
No, she just passed.
I apologize.
Yeah.
My
No,
condolences.
no.
My condolences. Is there anybody that you might want to?
Well, speaking on that, like I just recently, you know, my grandmother was also one of the people when I was younger, I would live
My
with her.
condolences. I really
Thank you.
mean
No,
that.
thank you. But like, luckily, I was able to be present for that. Do you know what I mean? Like you know, she passed away in October, and she was another person that I stole from, I took advantage from, and when she was sick, my husband and I would go and take care of her at night.
Wow.
You know, basically like the last few months before she passed. And one of the nights I got to sit with her and I looked at her and I just got this feeling like right now I need to make those amends. I need to say to her, Nana, I'm sorry I put you through the things that I put you through. I'm sorry I stole from you. I'm sorry I used to have you drive me to this dealer's house and that dealer's house. And she didn't even want to hear it. She was like, will you stop? She didn't even want to hear it. But I knew for myself,
You need to say
I
it.
need to say it. I needed to say it. I know I live a different lifestyle, and I know, you know, my family a lot of the times, they'll say, you know, oh, don't worry about that. It was a different lifetime ago. You know, I robbed my mother for a lot of things, a lot of things. I think my active addiction damaged our relationship in ways that, like, we're still trying to get through. You know, a lot of the fellowship teaches us that, like, oh, you'll get your family right back and people will forgive you.
Maybe physically, but it takes a lot of time.
It takes a long time. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
And, like, but I know for me, I still, like, I'll go to I'll look online and see different jewelry things, and I constantly am looking to see maybe I can get that pendant back. Maybe I can get that.
Yeah.
I always like, and I think, I think my mother knows, like I've apologized before to her, but I think, making sure like I continuously show up. She said at my 8-year celebration, last year was the first year she ever came to my celebration. And it was kind of powerful for her because she was like, I didn't really think that, you still had difficulties. Even at 8 years, I kind of thought like after, the first year, you didn't still experience things. And, that's something that I'm grateful she can hear that. Like I'm grateful she can hear the different things and not hear it from ears that, is hurt because of my actions. Yeah. And so today, both my parents know that.
Your dad's still alive?
My dad is, yep. And I harmed that relationship. Listen, any relationship I had, I was harming you.
Yeah.
I was harming you. I needed something, I needed something from you. And now I look at it, and one thing I made a promise myself, I try not to ask them for much. I'll do whatever I can not to ask them because I've taken so much. I've taken so much.
But do you feel like, they are, they very forgiving, but do you feel that what you're doing is enough to make them feel, not cover what happened, but to make them to feel like she's good? And I mean, or help them heal a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I think at times with most families, not just my family, I think it's hard. And I'm not a mother, but I think if I was a mother, I would internalize all these life situations, Yeah. And the one thing that I try to explain to my parents, it had nothing to do with you. It had nothing to do with you. Unfortunately, it wasn't because you didn't teach me right from wrong. It wasn't because you didn't teach me.
Did they feel like that at some point?
I think so. I think so.
Like you said, they're probably everybody.
Yeah.
What do we do wrong?
I think so. And I remember even at the youngest age, kind of just having this restless, irritable, and discontent. There was something inside of me that was it just was uncomfortable, and I needed to act out. So I think, I think by the things that I do, they believe that. But I know, every once in a while, my mother, if she doesn't hear from me, I'll get a call. Is everything okay? And I'll instantly be like, what do you mean, is everything okay?
Defensive, right?
But it's because she didn't hear from me. And automatically she's triggered by that. So I just try to make sure that, wow. I live in that, I just try to I make living amends every day. I try to live in changing my actions every single day. Some days I fall short.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they know.
Good. That you're good.
Yeah.
Good. All right, let me ask you one more question, and then then I need you to talk to the person that's, is there anything that you want to say? Any question that I probably didn't ask that you want? All right. So I wanted to ask you, and this is kind of like the thing. How do you forgive yourself, Keri? That was a problem for me, right? I would forgive people, and for a long time, I didn't even forgive myself. That self-love, I'm kind of big on it right now. Self-love, be your own friend first. All that stuff. But man, it took a long time to forgive myself. And I don't even know if I'm still there. I think it's maybe a process. But how do you do it? Is there something what do you do for that? I mean, because
I think, to be honest with you, I think just working on myself. I have good days and I have bad days. Sometimes, and I think throughout the years, I've had phases. In the beginning, it was I was on a cloud, and I wasn't really thinking about can I forgive myself? And then I got to a place at almost 5 years where I was unstable, mentally unstable, and I got really, really unhealthy. And so one of the ways that I try to make sure I'm working on myself, but it is also forgiving myself, is that I hold space for myself. I have to make sure that Keri also gets help. It's easier for me to look out and help other people and justify, well, I'm doing this and this. And then all of a sudden, my cup is completely empty. I'm not well. And
wow.
So one of the things that I ended up doing was I had to learn who I was. And that was at 5 years. It wasn't the first year. 5 years, I was I'm a wife, yup, title. I have this job, yup, title. These are all titles.
Yeah.
Who am I? Who am I? And so I think one of the ways that I really try to work on forgiving myself is getting to know myself. getting to know myself, the good, the bad, the ugly, who I used to be, how I used to have to live, who I am today, like the dark side of me, like that shadow that I kind of want to push away.
Yeah.
I really try to look in and be like, wait a minute. You know, anger for me is one of the things I know that if my anger starts coming out, we're screwed. Everybody's screwed. It's a problem. So I try to make sure I don't get to that point. I think, you know, forgiving myself, just continuously showing up is how I forgive myself. But sometimes it's being like, it's okay if I make a mistake. I'm super hard on myself, clean now. It's weird. Before I didn't care. I didn't care about anything, and now I care about everything. It's like sometimes it's okay just to mess up and not take things so seriously. I didn't get clean to be so serious. So
you think it's to get clean to have to be messed up or just to be unhappy.
Yeah.
Do you have sponsors?
No.
You don't have, so you would never take a sponsor? Okay.
So one of my, I kind of went like alternative pathways. It's kind of weird, but that's why I am all pathways.
No, I respect them.
And you know, for me, like I had a life coach. I went to NA. I went to AA. I took everything I could. I internalized. I've had sponsors. But I think for me, I had so much trauma a lot of the times that I went through like a different pathway. I went through therapy, and I did like a lot of the writing through the spiritual life coach, and but I live it. Like one of the things that I'm big on is like you can have the best sponsor in the world and doing the best. You could write the best step work, but if you're not living it, the end result is going to be the exact same.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same. So you know, for me, I also try to normalize the conversation that. And I don't broadcast it because a lot of people at the end of the day will be surprised. Wait a minute, you don't have a sponsor? You're rehearsing this and you're rehearsing that. And it's like, do you look at me different? Do you have a different perception of me? Like, and sometimes, you know, for me, what I came in with was a little different than most people. I needed more trauma work. I needed more internal healing. I needed to focus on that first. So, and I have all these women.
No, the reason why, because I know there's probably a lot of women that want you to be their sponsor. Cool. I appreciate it. Now, at this point, what I would really like for you to do, this is your time, 5-10 minutes, whatever you want, to speak to whoever you want to speak to. It could be a person struggling, it could be a family that don't know what to do with a person that's struggling. Somebody might be on the fence, or a woman that might think it's okay to be an abusive, whatever you feel like. It's your time.
I think one of the things that I would want to say is that, you know, regardless of any past histories, regardless of any experiences that, you know, your substance use or your alcoholism kind of led you down to, that doesn't define you. And like me being, you know, at one point in time an IV homeless drug user, heroin user, that's not who I am today. My length of sobriety doesn't define who I am today. It doesn't define me as a woman. It's who I am on a daily basis that defines me as a woman. And so today, I think for most women, as it being International Women's Day, I think, you know, that women can recover. That's probably like the main statement that I want to say. Is like a lot of the times we think that there's this little voice inside of our head that our disease tells us, you know, you're never going to be anything but this, or you're just this, or you're just that. And that's not what you are. I've seen a lot of women recover, and I've seen a lot of women help other women recover. And so regardless if you come from, you know, the best background, or you come from the streets or the project staircases in Lowell,
like us.
you know, like we do recover. And that's the thing. Like there are times that society kind of outcasted us, you know, and we allowed it. I didn't mind being an outcast with society. I kind of wanted you to push me away. But I couldn't visualize. The one thing for me is like I couldn't visualize a better future, so I always went back to the past. I was okay with my hell. I knew my hell. It was really scary for me to step into my heaven. I didn't know what my heaven looked like, so I was fine back here. Until I was in an environment that taught me that it was okay to step into the unknown, that's when I could start exploring it. That's why I always reverted backwards. I knew what homeless looked like. I knew what dope sick looked like. I knew what going to jail looked like.
It's familiar, right?
That was familiar to me. I didn't know what it looked like having to walk into my first job interview. I didn't know what it looked like having to show up to my probation officer after I violated. I didn't know what it looked like, you know, saying no to somebody. when or speaking up and saying, this makes me feel uncomfortable. Because it was easier for me to stay silent than to speak up for what made me feel uncomfortable. Today I speak up. Sometimes I don't, most of the time I don't shut up. But you know what? If that keeps us alive, then keep speaking up.
Yeah.
Keep speaking up. We silence ourselves and it kills us.
Yeah.
So today, like the one
agree.
statement that I try to say is speak up and speak loud, because we need you. We need you alive. We need you here. We need your message.
Yeah.
And we need our community. That's one thing for me. My community saved my entire life. And I was grateful to be a part of a time frame where like they were giving us platforms to speak on our experiences. What does it look like when you go to a hospital and the nurses see that you have, you know, you're a drug addict and they want to shun you? What does that look like? And speaking on that on a public platform to let them know, listen, okay, I might come in here 10, 20 times, but I still am deserving of, you know, the supports. I still need help. I still need medical care. Just because of my current circumstances, that doesn't mean that's going to be me forever. No. So, you know, for the people who haven't, you know, you're lucky and fortunate enough not to have this experience in your life, don't judge. No. Don't cast judgment, because sometimes, you know, we end up being put right in those positions that we're judging. And we realize, you know what, I shouldn't have judged, because look at, here I am. So I think that's really, for all the women, please stand up and recover. We need you. We need you. I need you.
We all need you.
And thank you. I just want to thank you for having me, Sam.
Anytime.
It was a
I want
great
to say,
time.
you got to come back. We'll figure it out and maybe get another direction.
Absolutely.
Come back. You know what I mean? It was really nice.
Yes.
It's comfortable, right?
Yeah, very comfortable. Very.
It's very chill.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'd like to give a shout out to the Recovery Home. I'd like to give a shout out to the Bridge Recovery Center. All the people there. I'd like to give a shout out to all the people in her life. Mom, Dad, man.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Thank you for sticking up. And yeah, and again, back to you again, Tom. So yeah, make sure you come back. We'll talk about it and we'll figure it out. All right?
Okay.
Thank you. So I'd like to also say, give a shout out back, like I said, to the Recovery Connection, Perry Center in Marlboro. If you're in Marlboro, please come down. We're overhauling. We're trying to put a new thing together. We'd like you guys to come and be a part of that. It's not just a recovery center, it's a community center. So, and all of us are affected by it. I mean, when I was out there using, I affected everybody. I affected the store, I affected the stores, I affected the prices that went up. You know, so I affected the community with my use. So the community's welcome to come down. We're getting ready to plan an open house in the next month or so. I'll continue to bring it out on the show. And I just want to thank you guys for coming and watching the show. Like it and please share it. And as always, I like to say I love you to Taisha, to Darryl, and to Zayla. Peace.